Hey there, I'm going to cover in this video how to understand anything which is any concept which you might come across in your study material. In this video this video I recorded as one video, but it got too long, so that's why I've made it into two parts. The first is understanding conceptual things and understanding them and learning them. Second is just rote memorization. In the first part I understand a tax law concept. In the second part, I just memorize pharmacology concepts. So that is that for you. Please enjoy this video and pardon me if there are any interruptions. Okay, this became a 48-minute video, so I could not upload it all at once. So that's why I'm uploading it as two parts. Please enjoy. Hello there, welcome to another video of this course. Today I'm going to cover a topic very near and dear to my heart as a biology student, which is how to memorize. This is a framework which surprisingly my grandmother taught it when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I have been using it ever since then to memorize things deep into my head, at least until the day of the exam. Without wasting any time, let's just directly go into it. And I'll not just memorize anything, I'll just show you what I'm gonna do. So, what is the most boring theoretical subject which requires a lot of memorization? Hmm. Pharmacology. I mean, this one could have some I want to go for the most boring subject that I don't know about. So pharmacology I might be knowing something about, but let's do tax law. Let's do tax law. Okay, let's just open ChatGPT. Just ask it the same question and ask me tax law. Okay. Okay. Give me a paragraph from tax law that is very boring and kind of hard to memorize. Okay, let's say we have this one. Now I'm going to give you a few rules for memorization, just like I did for first principles thinking. I'll first tell you the rules, then I will show them to you in action. Okay, let me just write them down and show you. So I'm back. Now in my screen you'll see this diagram which shows the 6 steps to memorization. So the first thing that we'll do, whatever it is that we want to memorize, we'll simplify it. We'll remove all the jargon. We'll decrease the reading level. We will remove all the words which don't make sense. We'll simplify it and understand the real meaning as if you were explaining to a 5-year-old. Well, not that simple, but in simple words at least. We'll remove all the hard words which basically don't make sense. Next, we'll make points. Since we're going for subjective examinations, it's better to write in points. I've personally lost a few marks in theoretical subjects like chemistry where I wrote paragraphs instead of points, and my teacher was like, I don't have time to read paragraphs, I want you to write your answer in points. And when I started writing the answer in points, I got more marks. So, would highly recommend making points, it's easier to remember as well. Next, we understand the logical flow. Now, then we have two things. Either the topic is conceptual and you have to memorize it, or it's just pure memorization. Okay, pure memorization topics. Then you will use, in the case of conceptual topics, you'll first understand the logical flow of the topics, how things are connecting. Here you have to use the first principles thinking again, and if there is the pure ratification as we call it in Hindi and English, if it's just pure memorization, you just have to gulp it down your throat. That's where we'll use tricks, examples, Yeah, we'll use mostly tricks and examples. And if I need to connect it to my yeah, once that is done, in order to embed the topic better in my head, I would connect it to my existing knowledge. And then once all of this is done, I have my first draft ready of how I will memorize it. I will just read that, and I'll close my notebook, or I'll remove the tab in which I have it written, and then I will either verbally repeat it 3 times, or I will write it down 3 times just from memory without looking at it. If I have to look at it, I will look at it. If I get stuck somewhere in between, I will look at it, but then I will go back and do it again 3 times. 3 times you have to write that down and repeat it without looking at the source material. Now, if you don't have time, now it depends on how little time you have. You can, instead of writing, you can do 3 times, and if you have even less time, you can do 2 times. If you're just studying one day before the exam, then you can just do one time, although I would not recommend it, but you use what you have. Okay, now we come back to our boring theoretical thing. Okay, now we have this paragraph that I want to memorize. Okay. Where an SSC incurs expenditure in relation to income which does not form part of the total income under this act, note that when an SSC incurs expenditure in relation to income which does not form part of the total income under this act, no reduction shall be allowed in respect of such expenditure. Now, with the help of, now this line does not make sense to me at all. I do not understand what is happening. The assessing officer shall determine the amount of expenditure incurred in relation to such income in accordance with the prescribed method if, having regard to the accounts of the SSC, he is not satisfied with the correctness and claim of the SSC. Again, this line also does not make sense to me. The provisions of this section shall also apply in relation to a case where an SSC claims that no expenditure has been incurred by him in relation to income which does not form part of the total income. I have no clue what is happening. I am not a commerce student. I have never studied accountancy in my life. So this does not make sense to me. Now, again, long sentences with multiple clauses, terms like these, the wording is repetitive, missing a few words, understanding one task. Okay, now let's say we have this. See, in most exams in the university level, or even in 11th and 12th level, you can write the answer in your own words as long as you're covering all the key points. So I would prefer that I write the answer in my own words with, yeah, and if I write it in my own words, I will understand it rather than write like 20% of the answer from the bookish language. So now I want you to, here you can take the help of, here you should take the help of, here, yeah, I highly recommend. I want you to simplify this. First, explain me what is happening, what are the meanings of the different terms, and I have no clue what is happening here. Explain in simple words. Okay, now we are talking. Imagine you own a company. The company earns two kinds of income. Taxable income, you pay tax on it. Example, you sell products and make 10 lakh profit, government taxes that profit. Very good. Tax free income, you don't pay taxes on it. Example, certain dividends or government improved investments may be tax exempted. Okay, I understand this. SSC means the taxpayer, the person or company whose taxes are being calculated. Oh, sorry. So if you own the company, you are the SSC. Okay, very good. Deduction reduces the income in which you pay tax. You made 10 lakh profit, you spend 2 lakh on business expense. Government says, okay, we'll tax only 8 lakh. The 2 lakh is the deduction. Very good. Assessing officer, tax officer checking your tax return thing. You trust me, bro, those numbers are correct. Tax outside, let me see. Okay, now we'll compare these two side by side. Let's just put it in another window. Okay, where an SSC incurs expenditure in relation to income which does not form part of the total income under this act, no deduction shall be allowed in respect of such expenditure. Suppose you earn tax-free income. Okay, tax-free income. You spent money to earn that tax-free income. Government says you can't use those expenses to reduce your taxes. Here we're using example. You earn 10 lakh rupees taxable business income, 1 lakh tax-free income. To earn that 1 lakh tax-free income, you spend 20,000. You tell the government, please reduce my taxable income by 20,000 because I spent that. The government says no, because the income was tax-free already. You don't get a double benefit. Now it is making some sense. When an SSE, which means the taxpayer, incurs expenditure in relation to income which does not form, wait a minute, sorry, which does not form part of the total income under this act, no reduction shall be allowed. Okay, SSE has incurred expenditure in relation. So, in relation to income which does not form part of the total income which does not form part of the total taxable income, which means the remaining part of the income which is tax free, and in relation to that income we have incurred some expenditure. So this expenditure cannot be deducted from the taxable income. Okay, no deduction shall be allowed in respect of such expenditure. Now this makes sense to me. Okay, because of how ChatGPT has simplified it, that I'm earning some income which is not taxable, and in order to earn that I have put some expenses. For example, I make a course and I sell it for $1 trillion, and to make that 1 trillion, and that $1 trillion, I'm sorry, this is wrong, this would be taxable income, but somehow I make 1 lakh rupees as a non-taxable income. And then wait, if the income is non-taxable, why do I need to so now here I'm having a few doubts. First, how did I make the how did I earn the tax-free income? Second, if the income is tax-free in the first place, why do we care about deductions and expenditure since we don't have to pay taxes anyways? Now this stuff you can do only when you have time, like you go into completely in depth. Now these are the two doubts which are arising in my mind. Let's see. Okay, you also invest in a government backed bond and like 1 lakh interest. Okay, this is good. So I made 1 lakh interest. Now I have both taxable and tax free income. If the income is tax free, why deduction? Okay, so the deduction isn't being applied to the tax free income, it is being applied to the taxable income. Business profit 10 lakh, bond interest 1 lakh. To manage those investments, you paid a financial year 20,000. Okay, 1 lakh is tax free, 20. Okay, got it. Now, why the government thinks this is unfair? Imagine those loophole existed. 100 rupees taxable income, 2 rupees tax, you earn 10 rupees tax income. Now the deduction taxable income would be 90 rupees. So 50 rupees untaxed is exempt. Related expenses don't get a deduction. I got it. I don't need to understand this analogy. So another addition that I do on my prompts is that I ask ChatGPT to explain using stories, analogies, and examples. So now this is my ChatGPT, so it understands. So it is already giving the analogies. So one last doubt that I have: if I have made expenditures for earning both taxable and tax-free income, I can still deduct the expenditure for taxable income, right? Hmm. Okay, got it. So till now we have understood the first sentence. Now I can explain it to anyone now. When an SSC incurs an expenditure in relation to the income which does not form part of the total income under this act, no deduction shall be allowed in respect of such expenditure. If a business, in simple words, if a taxpayer has earned some income which is taxable and some income which is non-taxable, the expenses made to earn that non-taxable income cannot be cannot be deducted from the taxable income of the taxpayer, because the non-taxable income is tax-free in the first place. That is how I would understand and memorize it. Memorizing boils down to understanding. If you understand something well, you can explain it any day. I think there is a great quote from Sir Richard Feynman. I'm not sure how. What is it? Wait. Understand principles. Richard. This is a quote worth showing. Wait. Understand, don't memorize. Learn principles, not formulas. Yeah. Sometimes you have to memorize also, so I'll also cover that. Okay. Yeah, see this one. Imagine a store gives you free pizza. Can I also get reimbursed for the money I spent driving here to get the free pizza? This was crazy. Yeah. So now it makes sense why this law exists. Okay. Now we'll say let's move on. Let's move on to the next sentence. I use AI heavily while studying, and I would recommend you to do that as well. The assessing officer shall determine the amount of expenditure incurred in relation to such income in accordance with the prescribed method. If, having regard to the accounts of the assessee, he is not satisfied with the correctness of the claim of the assessee in respect of such expenditure, still do not understand. This is written in lawyer English. Assessing officer, okay, determine, figure out, calculate expenditure income, okay. Tax free income related to such income means tax free income. Accounts of the assessee, accounts of the SSC, your books, okay. Claim of the SSC what you're telling the government. Now read it. If the tax officer looks at your record and doesn't believe your calculation of expenses related to tax-free income, he can calculate the amount himself using the official rules. Make sense? Tax income 1 lakh, expenses related to 2000. Tax your sales and this. No way, it only costs 2000 to generate this income. Because here I might be hiding this, and maybe the total expense is 5000 and I'm just showing 2000, and the rest 3000 I'm showing in the expenses of the taxable income so that I can get a deduction. So now the tax officer can get a suspicion and he can audit it again. So he says, I'm not accepting your no, then he uses government society to explain this. Now it's just perfectly clear. Okay, so what we will do is that we'll explain the second sentence in our own language. Now, if the assessing officer is taking a look at your tax records and he finds that the estimation of the expenses used to earn your tax free income is inaccurate, he can do a calculation himself using the official rules to find the actually correct expenditure. Make sense? Although this has the authority to check and calculate. Okay, expenses related to tax free income cannot be deducted. If the tax officer thinks you're reporting the wrong amount of expense, he can calculate the amount of official himself. Okay, next sentence. By the end of this, we will be able to explain this whole paragraph in our own words and it will be crystal clear to us. How long is the video? 19 minutes already, what the heck? That's what you get. Unfortunately, the electricity is no more, so we shall use what we have. The third sentence is the provisions of this section shall also apply in relation to a case where an SEC claims that no expenditure has been occurred him in relation to this income which does not form part of the total income of the rules which are SEC taxpayer claims that no expenditure has occurred in making the tax return. These rules also apply when the taxpayer says they spend absolutely nothing to earn the tax return. How much do you spend on it? Nothing. Oh, okay. Hmm. Got it. Got it. This is just an addition of the second addition to the second sentence that now if the expenditure that the person is showing is less, then also the tax officer can audit it, and if the expenditure that the person is showing is zero, that he incurred to make the tax free income, then also the officer can do the audit. Okay. Perfect. After all three sentences, now we will do it in our own words. And ChatGPT has given the answer, but we'll try to do it in our own words first. Okay. Now, if I were to write this in my own words, in simple words, I'm not. I'm see. I'm gonna scroll this here. I'll bring my cursor here, so that I don't look at it. Okay. I'll create a new tab here also. I'm not looking at it. Okay. Let's begin from the start. We have 3 points here. First, if you have if a taxpayer has if a taxpayer has let's use SSC here because now we know what SSC means. If an SSC has taxable as well as non-taxable income, the expenditure incurred to earn the non-taxable income cannot be deducted from his taxable income because the non-taxable income is already exempted from taxes. The expenses incurred to earn the taxable income can still be deducted. Okay. Now, if the tax, what is the technical word for the tax officer? Let me just assessing officer. Okay. If the assessing officer feels that the amount of expenses that a taxpayer has shown in his tax records for now here we are making the sentence a bit complicated. Tax record for earning the non-taxable income is inaccurate. I would prefer shorter sentences here. If the assessing officer feels like the amount of expenses that a taxpayer has shown in the tax records for earning the non-taxable income is inaccurate, then the officer has the authority to verify those expenses according to the official rules. Now that is done. And third, if the amount of expenses, if the taxpayer, instead of taxpayer we will use SSC, and if an SSC shows that the amount of the expenses to earn non-taxable income is zero, the assessing officer can still verify it. Now, one more thing you can add is that now if you want, you can add this, but then it will unnecessarily increase the length of the answer. And in this answer, we're writing this answer for an exam, so we don't have a lot of time. But I know that the reason why a taxpayer might not show the complete expenses in the non-taxable income, because those are non-deductible, and if he shows them in the taxable income, then he can get a deduction. So that's why, in order to avoid paying taxes on my taxable income, that's why I might be showing this, that I might not be completely showing my expenses in the non-taxable income. See how we made this completely simple. And now ideally I would repeat this in my mind 3 times, or I can teach this to a friend in simple words. That's it. You have memorized it in your head. Now I can say it without looking at it. I can just tell it to you. See, I have no clue. I am not a commerce student. I have never studied this thing. But I have just memorized it in front of you, and I'll just show you how it works. If a taxpayer has two sources of income, one is taxable, one is non-taxable. Non-taxable can be from certain government schemes, agriculture stuff, etc. If he has two sources of income, the expenses which the taxpayer incurs to earn the taxable income can be deducted from the final taxable income, whereas the expenses that the taxpayer incurs to earn the non-taxable income cannot be deducted from the from the net taxable income, because the non-taxable income is non-taxable. Okay. Now, if the assessing officer feels like the amount of expenses that the taxpayer has shown to earn the non-taxable income is inaccurate, the officer has the authority to verify those expenses and make sure that the expenses that the taxpayer has shown to earn the non-taxable income are accurate. Okay. And if in any case the taxpayer shows that he has not incurred any expense to earn the non-taxable income, the officer still has the authority to verify those expenses, to verify that the taxpayer has indeed not spent anything to earn the non-taxable income. See, very simply we have memorized it.